You're making a serious mistake.
She was disrupting the entire flight. She hasn't done anything!
The moment the flight attendant stepped in front of my seat, I knew something was wrong. "Sir, get out of that seat now." Her voice wasn't professional. It was sharp, loud, and deliberate. Loud enough for everyone in the VIP cabin to hear. I looked at the boarding pass in my hand. 2A, then I looked at the seat, 2A. Then I looked back at her. "This is my assigned seat." She crossed her arms. "No, it isn't." That was the moment the entire cabin seemed to change. I could feel people watching me. A businessman across the aisle stopped typing. An elderly couple lowered their conversation. A young black woman near the window quietly reached for her phone. She wasn't the only one watching. 2 uniformed airport officers were visible through the cabin entrance, speaking with another employee. I didn't know it yet, but one of them, a black female officer named Officer Renee Carter, would soon become one of the few people in that cabin willing to separate facts from assumptions. But at that moment I was still standing. Beside the seat I had paid thousands of dollars to occupy. I handed the flight attendant my boarding pass. "Please check the reservation system." She barely glanced at it. "I don't need to." That answer bothered me more than the accusation, not because I was angry, because she hadn't even checked. "Ma'am," I said calmly, "I'm asking you to verify the information before making a decision." She looked at my suit, my briefcase, and then my face. People make mistakes with these premium tickets all the time. A man sitting several rows away suddenly spoke up. "I've been waiting for that seat." The flight attendant immediately pointed toward him exactly. "He paid for first class." I looked at the man, then at her. "That's interesting. What if she demanded because so did I?" A few passengers exchanged glances. The young black woman with the phone quietly began recording. I noticed her but said nothing. There are moments in life when you realize that arguing will only give someone the opportunity to describe you as angry, difficult, or threatening, so I did the opposite. I stayed calm. "I'm going to give you one opportunity to verify the reservation." I told her, "If the system says I'm wrong, I'll move." She shook her head. "I don't have time for this." Then she pointed toward the rear of the cabin. "Take your things and go." I felt the anger rising inside me. But I remembered something my father once told me. When someone tries to provoke you into losing control, your composure becomes your strongest weapon. So I breathed, "I won't fight you." I said, "But I won't surrender my dignity either." The young woman recording lowered her phone for a second. Her eyes met mine. I could tell she understood exactly what was happening. Then the flight attendant reached for her radio. "Security to gate 18. We have an uncooperative passenger." That sentence changed everything. Within minutes, 2 airport officers approached the cabin. One was Officer Renee Carter, a black woman with a calm expression and years of experience written across her professional posture. She didn't rush to judgment. She looked at the flight attendant first, then at me, then at the boarding pass. "Sir," she said, "may I see your documentation?" I handed it to her. She studied it carefully. Unlike everyone else, she actually checked the facts. Her expression changed. "Your name is Marcus Washington." "Yes, and C2A?" "Yes." She looked toward the flight attendant. "Did you verify this reservation?" The woman hesitated. "No." For the first time, the cabin went completely quiet. Officer Carter looked back at me. "Sir, please remain calm. I'm going to verify this personally." I nodded. "Thank you, officer." The young black woman continued recording. The officer walked toward the crew station. The flight attendant followed her, suddenly less confident than before, and I remained standing beside C2A, holding my briefcase, wondering how many other passengers had experienced this same humiliation without anyone willing to stop and ask one simple question. What does the evidence actually say? Officer Renee Carter stepped toward the crew station with my boarding pass still in her hand. I watched her speak quietly with the flight attendant. I couldn't hear every word, but I could see the difference in their body language. The flight attendant was defensive. Officer Carter was focused. She wasn't trying to prove anyone wrong. She was trying to find out what was true. That distinction matters, because when emotions rise, facts are often the first thing people stop looking for. A few seconds later, Officer Carter returned. "Mr. Washington, your reservation is valid." I nodded. I appreciate you checking, the flight attendant immediately interrupted. Officer, there has to be some mistake. We have another passenger assigned to that seat. Officer Carter looked at her. Then the reservation system needs to be checked by the airline. The supervisor stepped forward. I've already reviewed the situation. The passenger needs to leave the seat, so we can resolve it at the gate. I looked at him. You've reviewed what? He hesitated. Your ticket. Did you verify it with the reservation system? Another pause. No. I took a slow breath. Then you haven't reviewed the situation. You've reviewed an assumption. The cabin became quiet again. The young black woman who had been recording was still holding her phone at chest level. I could see the concern in her eyes. She wasn't recording because she wanted drama. She was recording because she understood that sometimes evidence becomes the only voice a person has when nobody wants to listen. The supervisor didn't like my answer. So you're making this more complicated than it needs to be. No, I said, I'm asking everyone here to do something very simple. What? Check the facts. That sentence seemed to hit him harder than an argument would have. He turned toward the flight attendant. Call the gate. She reached for her radio. Before she could speak, the passenger waiting for 2A stepped forward. Look, I've been standing here for 10 minutes. I paid for this seat. Why are we still dealing with this? The supervisor pointed toward me because he refuses to cooperate. I looked at the passenger. I don't blame you for being frustrated. He looked surprised. What? You were told this seat was yours. You have every right to be confused. The man glanced toward the crew. For the first time, he seemed unsure about what he had been told. Then the flight attendant raised her voice. Sir, we're done discussing this. You need to leave the aircraft. Officer Carter immediately stepped between us. Let's keep this professional. Her voice was firm but controlled. She wasn't taking sides. She was preventing the situation from becoming something. It didn't need to become. That was the moment I respected her. Not because she was black, not because she was a woman, because she understood what professional authority actually meant. Authority isn't about making people afraid of you. It's about keeping control when everyone else is losing it. Then I heard the flight attendant say something that changed the atmosphere. Security needs to remove him. Officer Carter looked at her. On what grounds? The woman opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Officer Carter waited. Officer, he's refusing to follow instructions. He's standing beside a seat. His boarding pass identifies as his assigned seat. The flight attendant's face tightened. That's not the point. Officer Carter's expression remained calm. Then tell me what the point is. No one answered. The woman recording suddenly whispered. This is getting crazy. I heard the notification sound from her phone. Her live stream had begun attracting viewers. Hundreds, then thousands. I didn't want the situation to become entertainment, but I also understood something important. A private injustice can be ignored. A documented one becomes much harder to erase. I checked my watch. 9 minutes until departure. My phone vibrated. My executive assistant had sent another message. Marcus, the board wants to know if you're still coming tonight. I typed back, I'm handling something important. Then I put the phone away. The supervisor noticed. Who are you calling? Nobody. Then why aren't you cooperating? I looked directly at him, because cooperation doesn't mean surrendering when someone is wrong. Officer Carter glanced at me, then toward the supervisor. Sir, I'm asking everyone to step back while I verify the reservation with the gate agent. The supervisor shook his head. We don't have time. Officer Carter's expression hardened. Then make time. The cabin went silent. That was the first moment I realized she wasn't going to let pressure replace procedure. The young woman recording smiled faintly. Good, she whispered. Officer Carter picked up the radio. Gate control, this is Officer Carter. I need an immediate verification of passenger Marcus Washington C2A. A voice crackled through the radio. She listened, her eyes suddenly widened. She looked at me, then at the supervisor. Mr. Washington, she said carefully, there's something you need to know. The entire cabin seemed to hold its breath. Officer Renee Carter kept the radio close to her mouth. Gate control, this is Officer Carter. I need an immediate verification of passenger Marcus Washington. Seat 2A static filled the cabin for a moment. Then a voice came through. Officer Carter confirmed the passenger's full name. Marcus Washington. Another pause. I watched the supervisor's expression carefully. He still looked confident. The flight attendant was standing beside him with her arms crossed, as if she was waiting for the officer to prove me wrong. Then the radio crackled again. Reservation confirmed. Marcus Washington is the assigned passenger for C2A. VIP classification confirmed. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. For several seconds, the only sound was the quiet hum of the aircraft. Officer Carter slowly lowered the radio. She looked at the supervisor. His reservation is valid. The supervisor's confidence disappeared. The flight attendant stared at me. But that can't be right. Officer Carter's voice became firmer. The system has confirmed it. But this passenger, who had been waiting for my seat, suddenly stepped backward. I was told it was mine. I looked at him. I believe you. He looked embarrassed. I didn't know. I know that was important to me. Because justice shouldn't require creating another victim. The person who had been misled wasn't my enemy. The problem was the assumption that had been made about me. The young woman recording had tears beginning to form in her eyes. She looked at her phone and whispered, "People are watching this everywhere." I glanced toward her, then let them see the truth. The supervisor stepped forward. "Mr. Washington, I apologize for the confusion." I looked at him. Confusion is when two people have the same reservation. He swallowed. This was a mistake. "No," I said quietly. The mistake was refusing to verify the facts. The flight attendant suddenly spoke. "Sir, I was just following procedure." I looked at her then. "Show me the procedure." She froze. "Show me where the procedure says you can assume a passenger doesn't belong because of how he looks." She couldn't answer. Officer Carter stepped forward again. "That's enough." Her voice wasn't loud. "It didn't need to be. Everyone needs to remain professional." Then she turned toward me. "Mr. Washington, you're free to take your seat." I nodded. "Thank you, Officer Carter." She gave me a small smile. "You're welcome." I finally sat down in 2A, but I didn't feel victorious. Not yet, because I kept thinking about how quickly the situation could have gone in a completely different direction. What if Officer Carter hadn't asked questions? What if security had arrived, looking for a confrontation instead of facts? What if nobody had recorded? What if I had lost my temper? The outcome could have been completely different. That's why I believe real strength isn't always about fighting back. Sometimes it's about staying calm long enough for the truth to catch up. I looked across the cabin. The young woman lowered her phone. "Sir," she said, "can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why didn't you get angry?" I thought about it for a moment. Because I knew who I was before they decided who I was. She stared at me, then she nodded slowly. Those words weren't meant to sound inspirational. They were simply the truth, but I could see them affecting people around me. The elderly woman across the aisle reached over and touched the young woman's arm. "Keep recording," she whispered. The young woman smiled. "I will." Then Officer Carter's radio suddenly crackled again. Her expression changed. She listened carefully. The message lasted only a few seconds. Then she looked directly at me. "Mr. Washington, the airline's corporate office has just been contacted." My phone vibrated at the exact same moment. One message, then another. Then 5 more. I looked at the screen. My executive assistant had sent a single sentence. "Marcus, they finally know who is sitting in 2A. I slowly looked toward the flight attendant. She was staring at me. The supervisor was staring at me. Even the passenger, who had demanded my seat, was staring at me. And for the first time that evening, I saw something completely different in their faces. Not anger, not confidence. Fear, but I wasn't interested in humiliating anyone. I wanted accountability. There is a difference. I turned toward Officer Carter. "Officer, you did your job tonight." She nodded. "You stayed calm too." "I had a reason," she smiled. "So did I." That moment reminded me why professional law enforcement matters. A badge should never be a shortcut to judgment. It should be a commitment to facts, fairness, and protecting people when emotions are running high. And Officer Carter showed exactly what that looked like. She didn't protect me because I was powerful. She protected the truth because that was her responsibility. That's the kind of courage I believe America needs more of. Not louder voices, not bigger egos. Just people willing to pause, ask questions, and refuse to treat another human being as guilty before the facts are known. If this story made you think about a time when someone judged you before knowing the truth, I want to hear about it. Tell me in the comments, would you have stayed calm in my position? Or would you have fought back? And tell me something else. What kind of story should I bring you next? A CEO facing discrimination, a black woman standing up to an abusive authority figure, or a quiet employee who exposes corruption from the inside? Your comments help shape the stories I create next. If you believe dignity should never depend on someone's appearance, income, job title, or background, share this story with someone who needs that reminder. And if you want more stories where injustice meets accountability, subscribe to The Justice Verdict.